when you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Set you free, but I really want to let you be. And a part of me wished I could set myself aside, just let you take the ride, just chalk the rest up to destiny. I could let you believe that the only restraints in life are the size of your dreams. Let you believe each kid grows up with the world at their feet. When I know too well it's open season, I know they're taking stock and raising stocks and raising stock. And I'm simply not here to sit and watch as you learn the lesson all cogs are taught. Keep your head down and keep to task and just keep on blocking the rest of it all out. Just keep on with the rest of the herd of a million adjacent oblivious workers. The forest unseen for the trees, and the trees unseen for the fallout. No, what's more damning, baby, the truth or the ignorance? Fuck it, I honestly wonder if I see the answer so well. Baby, believe me, well, I know it's scary, I scare myself. If I could find a way out of my head, I would run like hell. I would ditch this body politic, mindless occupant somewhere far from the dismal abyss. In the tranquil crystalline bliss of the beach, I could rest with the rest of the shells. And if anyone asks, I'm anywhere else. If I'm really needed, just light the candle, then read the book, and then ring the bell. Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul. This world will melt your mercy down so they can sell its gold. This world will take your worth and then demand 1,000-fold. It's full of greedy pigs who'll eat you out of house and home. They'll strip your bank account and sweep you somewhere down the road, and then return to eat your tent and shitty bike you rode. Your bottled water, only shoes and coat and broken phone. Then smiling in your face, they'll tell you that the shelter's closed.
When you are not with where majority of Americans are, then, you know, that is extreme. That is an extreme way of thinking.
Hoped you would never find out, knew that you had to know. Pulling what's left of my mind out, trying to tell you so. I tried to block the light out, knew you could feel its glow. I bet you're holding my hands out, trying to keep you close. Trying to keep you close.
Oh, my untarnished heart, my little perfect soul. This world will melt your mercy
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to save. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to say. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe? Were you safe?
Fresh off the masses, the brand new cancerous growth, who has come here to vie for your vote. Come here to cry at the camps and to mourn at the shore for the bodies that float by the wreck of an immigrant boat. Then it's back to their luxury home, couple security booths and a moat. Couple cigars, little escargot, little booze and a soak. Just breathe in the steam and the smoke. Pink salt, lavender, candles are low. Shit, when you do what you do, gotta lighten the load. And he got a life of his own that's a sight to behold. And it's a lot to control, to decipher the code or to siphon the soul. The cost of a good night's sleep for the working elite is a bargain, no matter the toll. Worth any wager, and that comes straight from the mouth of the means to the goal that will swallow us whole. Ripe for the picking if you don't mind mold, and you know I don't. Maybe we're pleasantly prone, maybe we're taking a licking, compliantly ticking and ticking and ticking, but never explode. No, I don't deliver the prettiest image, but damn if it isn't an accurate vision of natural fission, of rage at the system and abject heartbreak, patiently waiting for any who'll listen. That little blue bird who was watching your words is a federal carrier pigeon, a Langley first. It's a patient observer who hears what it wants and is trained for the worst. Oh, you got nothing to hide. They'll be the ones to decide that after they root through your purse, after they read all your text, after they raid your apartment, confiscate all of its contents, then conjure up evidence out of the air on a wing and a prayer and malicious intelligence nonsense. Any presumption of innocence long since gone, right along with your comforts and constants. Historically first they will come for the communists. So why in the fuck would I say I'm a communist? Well, it might be I love my community more than the monsters of opulence who are holding us hostage, who are vomiting promises. Might be I'm all done seeing our pensions and benefits harvested. Might be I'm all done watching the populace being disarmed in the guise of an armistice. Watching a woman collapse on the floor who will rise no more. She is wheeled out the door and you're next in line for the pharmacist. If you can get me to vote, it's a hard no confidence. But part of the charm of deception is politics wearing the mask of incompetence. It's all in the art of austerity, darling. It's all in the slide of the providence. Until home is as wide as your cubicle height and is only as deep as your coffin is. Maybe I'm miles away from impatience, aching to break off the head of the snake where the capital lust, reptile brain, and the margin of profit is. Like off with his. Like off with his.
I guess this isn't such an awful place. Is that what you want me to say? You prove it's possible to sleep for days and to still think you're right here awake. The cost of living isn't much to make, but God, it's so hard to save. And when they told you everything was safe, were you safe. Maybe that's how it goes. We won't open our eyes, so we're the last ones to know. We're the last ones alive. Kept our enemies close. Wondered why we don't thrive while we're grasping at ghosts, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5.
Count back from 5. The theater on fire, the cast on strike. The studio stock starts taking a dive. The contracts tossed and they're gone with the tide. And the heads and execs, their hands are tied. We can't pump this track and treat you right. But what do you expect from the industry type who survive by the leeching of bodies and minds? From those who original thoughts never seem to find. So they're gonna reboot ALF before your wages rise. And it gives cause to pause and reflect on the times. If they're losing control of their fools and their mimes, when all those obedient actors who grew their careers by averting their eyes are now holding the line, along with the authors of countless scripts that strengthen the hand of that corporate grip, squeezing our throats till we take the pen and we accept and consent to the corporate drip, till you're all up to date on your pharma du jour, till you got a healthy support for the war on your lips. And now you know that the advertisers need more than a rerun summer full of flashback clips. Enter the scans from the year before, all the days of de-aging and mapping the face, and the hours of actors recording their voices are links in the chains that will bind them in place. Now all of those shows are so easy to make. When they got a drone they control that needs no break, it can bend, it can break, and it's cheaply replaced enough up-to-date films all in one take. And those studios bank on us doing our duty, unhinging our jaws and digesting the fakes, because they know that we'll love how synthetic it tastes. Watch as they edit your features without any trace. Not that there's anything you could do anyway. Now watch as they show you a movie you saying shit you would never say. Dystopia boldly accelerates. Maybe you're only a mold, something to fill with a clone, something that Elon would celebrate. Something they own, something they program and code, something that's woefully able to know it's exanimate. Cause it doesn't feel touch over top of the laminate. You will not feel an emotion, but they will not scan and examine it. You and the other consumer contaminants fed on the federal diet of Kiev, Havana, and Tiananmen. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment. I can't be the only one weighing the pros of abandonment.
Where did you think we'd go? Love, there's nowhere to lie. Guess it's not who you know, more it's what you can hide. Like we're chained to the floor, they're streaming us live while we're watching the war, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards from 5, counting backwards.
There's a difference between peace and liberation, is there not? You can have injustice and have peace. Isn't that correct? Have peace and be enslaved.
Yes.
So peace isn't the answer.
No.
Liberation is the answer. Liberation
Yeah. Collin, why is your thing not there? I fixed this before the show. I fixed it. Now I don't know where it's at. Hold on. Yeah, they just don't see you. Get 2 seconds. Studio mode. And then find which one this is on. What a Windows update happened and it changed my this one, and it thinks my like monitor that I normally put you on is like the wrong monitor. You know what I mean? And like it like it's a different monitor. So like I've had to go back in and reset stuff, but I swear I just did that to fix it before the show, but whatever. I did it live. Fuck it. I did it live. It's me, Reef, with my co-host as always, Collin Radix-Carter, aka Care Bear. What up, dudes? Care Bear, how you doing? You doing good? Nice.
I am good.
How cold is it in DC? I'm sure it's getting down there, you know?
Well, it warmed up today.
Yeah.
It was really cold yesterday. But normal for this time of year is like 50s today.
Right.
So
yeah.
But yeah, so it's
Better
definitely
than what it was here. About the same.
What's that?
About what it was here. About the same, actually.
As a high.
Yep. Like it got a little cold here. It was colder yesterday. It's like it just warmed up. It was like maybe high of 60s. Something like that.
Well, yeah, but that's the thing. It's like 50s is the high here.
Yeah.
So at least today. Yesterday was like 40, but it felt more like 20 given the wind.
Yeah.
So
high is 70, but right now it's 51 outside, so on mine. But anyway, we did stories. We got stuff. We did some things. Which this thing, there we go. What did you bring this week? What do you got? Okay, are you there? Is it screwing up again with weird internets?
Yeah, it was screwing up again. I'm wondering if it's Discord. I'm wondering if it's Discord that
I mean, I just changed it
just before
so it should have been font like. If anything, that should have helped, you know. So,
but I'm wondering if there's something I need to do on my end, possibly.
Maybe, but I doubt it. We can always try something different for another show if we wanted to. I've been meaning to test out OBS Ninja anyway. But what did you bring?
Okay. So first story, and I'm going to preface by saying I'm of Caribbean descent. I do not know a lot about what's going on there other than, we're bombing Venezuela. So, and obviously like the Caribbean is kind of in the middle of that crossfire there.
Yeah.
So hopefully we're able to get DJ Joe Nice at some point because I know he has wanted to talk about this and he is more knowledgeable on this than me. So hopefully he's traveling right now as he usually is, but hopefully before the end of the year, we will get him to kind of give that perspective, the Caribbean perspective. So at least this can serve as kind of like a overview of what's going on there because we're hearing a lot about Venezuela, obviously, but not so much about how the Caribbean is being affected, giving our bombing over the region. So we're going to talk about that first. And then later on, we're going to talk about our favorite topic, electoralism and how it sucks. And I think just given we talked about Mandani last week, we're not going to go into it, though I might talk about it in regards to this article that I'm pulling. Just how Democrats caved this week in terms of the shutdown. This is good. It's kind of academic-y I will admit, and I did not pull everything. I pulled like maybe
Bits of
75%
it.
of the article.
Yeah.
But I think it gives, at least from our standpoint, UI, Indie, and our network colleagues at INN, just why we're totally against electoralism and what we should be doing instead. I mean, this is, I think, for a lot of you here who watch us every week, is kind of preaching to the choir, but just kind of having this on record as an evergreen, just as why you do not put faith in any politician. And can I tell a funny story? So this past weekend, my advocacy group that I was a part of, that I resigned from in the spring, they contacted me like a month ago, and they were like, "Hey, can you help to prepare a presentation?" So I said, "Sure, why not?" So that was done over the weekend, and I happened to see one of my former colleagues from there who had quit maybe a couple of years before I did. So it was kind of like a little reunion of sorts.
Yeah.
Long story short, she is planning to run for actually for council at some point, probably within the next couple of years.
Yeah.
Because she's really pissed off with her current council person. It sounds like using his qualifications, quote unquote, to kind of undermine her in terms of her advocacy and what she's done as a commissioner. So just using his academics or whatever, I mean, like, I'm better than you. Who the hell are you to tell me shit type thing? So she naturally got pissed off about this. So she was like, I'm thinking of running to primary him, like when he's up for re-election. So I told her, if you do plan to run, let me know, because I'd be more than willing to help in your campaign in whatever capacity you need help. But then I also said, this is why you don't trust any of these politicians. And she was like, I remember you saying that a couple of years ago.
Yeah.
And so, so I think, just given what we've seen this week, there's been a lot of crashing out among the Democratic base in terms of how 8 senators caved as far as the shutdown. But, they're crashing out now, but how that's going to respond, how they're going to respond within the next year, we know what's going to happen.
Right.
But I think anyway, this will be a good article to kind of refer to as to why you do not, we should not elevate electoralism in the way that we do in this country, and what we can possibly do instead. So I just wanted to bring that to the table as a good evergreen segment. And then what did you bring?
Well, I brought something a little more topical. Well, yeah, what they're gonna say, Collin, it is a plant. First of all, that should be a plant. That ain't no drug. Fucking, I know I have something for this. Hold on. Wait for it. Bip, bip. And
herb is a plant.
If it's a fucking plant, dog. Bob Marley trying to tell you. Anyway, so interesting enough, alcohol lobbyists have decided that they're going to try to get in on this shutdown situation. And since how everything got shelved and it, motion passed, right? Democrats caved. We're going to talk about something that may have been in it. So, that essentially might be banning THC products in beverages and other places, especially like hemp-derived THC, right? Which is like technically legal. One of those like legal loopholes, right? Like Delta 9, stuff like that. So, Mitch McConnell leading the charge on getting rid of that for his, alcohol lobby buddies. So I figured we'd touch on that just because no one else is going to, right? And sure. I also brought a piece from a friend of the show, Marwa Osman, right? Dr. Marwa Osman, I do believe. Should probably remember to tell people that when they've earned it. But yeah, she did a interesting piece about Sudan and the UAE and China. This little golden triangle that's, you know, using slave labor in Africa to, like, you know, steal resources.
Extract. Right.
Yeah. So, but yeah, you know, I think there's this thing, and we've talked about it recently about, you know, that multipolar thing may not be what you think it is. You know, it may not be exactly what we wanted the outcome to be. You know?
Right.
Like, I think there was a path if they actually chose morals and ethics and not profit motive, you know? They had a little bit of a window to head down the right road. But now we're dealing with, you know, the money havers made some decisions. So, especially when you look at what's happened in Syria and stuff. So, that's going to be fun when we talk about bombs over the Caribbean and Venezuela. I don't know if you saw what I sent you, but
no.
Yeah, that's some stuff. Go check out Truthwire. He's been killing it over on that, talking about that very thing and critical perspectives. I think that's her and Vanessa's show. If I'm not mistaken. But anyway, you ready to get started?
I am.
Cool. Let's do this. That.
So you know what? This is not going to typically out. You know, I give the spiel.
Yep.
And not to say guys, don't give us money. No, what I mean is, if you choose to give, we would gladly appreciate it. However, we know many of you, one, you're probably getting ready for the holidays, although I feel like for many people, the holidays are canceled, just given the fuckery that people have been experiencing given the shutdown over the last few weeks. And it's not going to get any better within the next few, even when the government does reopen, which probably maybe by the end of the week, if that. Yeah. So I can imagine a lot of holiday plans are already fucked. So, well, am I wrong?
No.
Am I wrong?
I was telling somebody today, like, they should keep the fucking those FAA, TSA, stay home. Fuck them over more.
Yeah, I mean, it's going to take a few weeks. It's going to take a few weeks for everything to kind of normalize. And given right now, like, by next weekend, people will be traveling. They're not going to get everything, assuming that the government is going to be reopened by Friday, maybe. It's not going to take a week to fix all these airlines and everybody, you know, getting back their back pay and all that kind of stuff. That's going to take another few weeks. I'll say at least another month. And we're heading into the holiday season right now. So regardless, like, that being said, if you have the means and you want to support us in terms of helping us, you know, start getting ready for 2026 as far as our bills, you can scan the QR code, or you can go to the Ko-fi link at the bottom of your screen. If you forget, which we know you will, if you're in the YouTube chat, you can type in !donate, all one word. And the Ko-fi link will pop up and you can click on it right there, and you can give as little as much as you want. $1 helps. You know, anything helps, whatever you choose to give. If you don't want to give for Ko-fi, you can give via Cash App, PayPal, or Substack. Keep in mind that pretty much all the money you give for those platforms, pretty much all that money goes to us directly. And as I said, we'll use that money towards now, I guess, starting paying off the bills that we need for next year in terms of, you know, running all this stuff that we have to
reminding
spend.
people that Restream is $693 a month in a month, like, that we have to pay out. Well, that's just the payout in
a month.
Right, in a month. It's like for a yearly thing. So
Okay.
that's like one chunk for the year, you know? So
Yeah, Sean is like, what?
yeah.
These
Shit's expensive,
things, like
dog.
yeah, it's expensive if you want to do something of quality. I will say that.
Yeah.
So,
And it's why we try to
um,
share the wealth with some peoples, you know?
right. So,
So
actually didn't know it was that much, to be honest. But
yeah, that's yearly.
So yeah,
and we're like grandfathered in too to like good price for good shit, you know?
right.
So it's like
So
we don't want to let
again,
it lapse.
right.
So,
So again, be a good neighbor.
State
Help
Farm is
each
there.
other. Sure. Help each other first. I'd rather you all do that than give to us. You know, we will figure. We are okay. We will
Yeah.
figure things
We'll
out.
manage,
If
but
you do
appreciate
not-
all
right,
the little dollary dues.
right. Sure. And that being said, you know, if you have the means and you're capable and you're able to, we will appreciate it. But yeah, so thank you guys. We love you. We appreciate you for being here. And yeah, we ready to get started?
Yeah, Indy sent me new names. Look at the new names on here. Yay, we had to make more space for our wall of fame. You know?
And yeah,
look at all the room.
No one knew as far as VIPs.
I think
right?
so. No new Veeps.
Okay. So anyone who gives generously, we need a dollar amount, honestly.
Probably.
Just to kind of, we say, yeah. So
yeah.
Your name will be featured. Well, your name is featured here in the page, and your name will be featured in our closing credits at the end of the show.
Yeah.
So, you know, you guys have carried us. So we really appreciate that.
Yeah.
But yeah. Shall we get into it?
Cool. We should. Bombs over Baghdad. Right, I'm sorry, the Caribbean.
Our first story tonight, and I'm going to be completely transparent. Uh-oh.
You good? I mean, best get it out of the way, I guess. Test 1 2. You sound okay on our end, weirdly enough. Just takes you a second to catch up sometimes. Weird. Alert. Are you back?
Yep.
Cool.
Yep. Okay. Yeah, we definitely have to check this thing. Okay, I'll start over. First story tonight, I will be very transparent. I don't know a lot about. Well, in part because I'm choosing to step away more from the news and politics in my regular life, at least at this point, just to keep me sane. I've
been trying to keep up with this though, so we should be good.
That being said, though, I should know more about this, given that this is the region of my ancestors, so to speak. But as I said, DJ Joe Nice is planning to come. We need to figure out a time when he's not traveling to actually sit down with him to schedule it. But he does want to talk about this, and he's more well-versed on this than me. So hopefully this can serve as a prelude to what he will probably more likely will expand upon once he's here. So hopefully we try and secure him down before the end of the year. But this story is from Truthout, written by Michael Fox, where he reports Caribbean leaders call for unified land American resistance to U.S. attacks. The U.S. has now struck 18 vessels and killed 70 people in its ongoing onslaught in the Caribbean and Pacific. So Michael.
Nice of Michael J. Fox to write things while he lives a very difficult disabled existence with the old Parkinson's and whatnot.
But Michael Fox writes, The tiny island nation of Barbados, with a population roughly the size of Anchorage, Nebraska, or Anchorage, Alaska, or Lincoln, Nebraska,
Yep.
might not be the country one would first imagine taking the lead to stand up to U.S. military actions and ambitions in the region. But as the Trump administration continues to attack boats, first in the Caribbean Sea and now in the Pacific, leaders in Barbados have been vocal. As a small state, we have invested tremendous time and energy and effort in establishing and maintaining our region as a zone of peace, Barbados Prime Minister Mia Mottley said at a conference in late October. Peace is critical to all that we do in this region, and now that peace is being threatened, we have to speak up. Motley called on other leaders in the region to denounce the U.S. military buildup in the Caribbean and the U.S. strikes on more than 18 vessels that, as of November 7th, had killed at least 70 people in the Caribbean and Pacific. U.S. officials say these boats are carrying dangerous drugs like fentanyl and cocaine to the United States. They say the people killed on these boats are drug traffickers. They provide no evidence for these claims, and in fact, administration officials have also admitted that the military doesn't identify the individuals on the boats before hitting them.
Right.
Ben Saul, the UN Special Rapporteur for the Protection of Human Rights while countering terrorism, has called the attacks a crime against humanity.
Yeah.
Family members of the victims who have been found say the people on the boats were just fishermen. They accuse the United States of flouting international law to push its military agenda in Latin America and the Caribbean. I believe that the time has come for us, therefore, to be able to ensure that we do not accept that any entity has the right to engage in extrajudicial killings of persons that they suspect of being involved in criminal activities, said Motley. We equally do not accept that any nation of our region or the Greater Caribbean should be the subject of an imposition upon them of any unilateral expression of force and violence by any third party or nation. Motley is one of many of Caribbean leaders who have condemned the Trump administration's actions, but there is also division, particularly due to the outsized role of the U.S. in the region. On October 18th, Motley met with leaders. Which way
to go?
I think
there it is.
Yeah, I went ahead. On October 18th, Motley met with the leaders of our Caribbean Community or CARICOM member nations. They released a joint statement reaffirming the need for peace, dialogue, and the unequivocal support for the sovereignty and territorial integrity of countries in the region. The fact that they're speaking up is highly significant. Alexander Main, the Director of International Policy at the Washington, D.C.-based Center for Economic and Policy Research, told Truthout. These Caribbean governments are very reliant on the U.S. in a number of ways, economically, and have been in a vulnerable position, particularly since the passage of Hurricane Melissa, in that the area where U.S. help is badly needed.
Yeah.
This week, the U.S. State Department said the United States would provide $24 million in assistance to the Bahamas, Cuba, Haiti, and Jamaica following the destruction wrought by the hurricane.
Which will come at a cost, I'm sure.
Oh.
I think it's good. Skipper?
Okay. Yeah. Cut out again. Okay, that's fine. One CARICOM country, however, did not endorse the declaration against U.S. strikes: Trinidad and Tobago. Prime Minister Kamala Persad-Bissonnette has openly supported U.S. President Donald Trump and his actions in the region. She says Trinidad has been impacted by drug violence, and Trump's attacks are trying to make their country safe. He is committed to fight against drug trafficking within our region. My government will continue to support the U.S. military drug interdiction exercises within the region, Persad-Bissonnette told the Trinidad Express. The island of Trinidad is just off the coast of Venezuela, only 6.8 miles at its closest point. The atmosphere in Trinidad is tense, Trinidadian journalist Sojini Gray told Truthout. We are not accustomed to these types of warlike language and these actions, he said. So, narco strikes in the Caribbean is odd, and bodies washing up on shores or citizens being killed. We had 2 of our citizens killed in, I believe, Strike 5. So that has been very disquieting. And then when we reach out to the Prime Minister for comment, she's very evasive. Gray says schools were closed in the capital on October 31st, and grocery stores were overrun with people trying to stock up when news reports suggested that U.S. strikes on Venezuela were imminent. Gray says the Trinidadian military went on high alert and troops were called to bases across Trinidad. Wait, did I skip? Yes. While the attacks expected in those reports have yet to occur, recent actions from the U.S. besides the boat strikes have still given plenty of reason for an abundance of caution. In mid-October, Trump authorized the ICA to carry out covert action in Venezuela. He told reporters the U.S. was considering direct strikes on Venezuela. We're certainly looking at land now because we got the sea very well under control, Trump said. The United States has amassed an unprecedented number of ships and military assets in the region, reportedly the largest military buildup in the Caribbean since the 1962 Cuban Missile Crisis. When the aircraft carrier USS Gerald R. Ford, the largest warship ever built, arrives in the Caribbean, there'll be over a dozen ships and more than 10,000 military personnel.
Who are these people?
Oh,
Hey, thanks,
you,
Jax.
Jax.
Appreciate
Thank
you.
you for the $15. Appreciate you. The Trump administration has labeled drug groups in the region as foreign domestic terrorist organizations in what legal experts say is an attempt to justify military action. Meanwhile, Trump has accused, again, without evidence, Venezuelan President Nicolas Maduro of being a narco-trafficking kingpin. He doubled the bounty of Maduro's head to $50 million in August. Maduro has denounced Trump's threat of military operations in the country and accused Washington of fabricating a war. The Venezuelan government was outspoken against the first boat attack, but since then, it hasn't exactly reacted. Ricardo Vaz, a journalist in Venezuela with Venezuelan analyst, told Truthout. I think the government is really trying to avoid any kind of falling for proclamations or unnecessary escalating the rhetoric. For good reason. Trump has shown itself to be unpredictable, and the U.S. government has hit back against Latin American leaders who have denounced its campaign in the Caribbean and the Pacific.
Yeah, it's still still screwing up. It's like yours like 2 ahead. It's weird. It's all right. I think this is it, right? Here, Bear. That one should be this one.
Yeah. Yeah. No. Oh. Okay.
Yeah,
All right.
I think I'll have to move it for
there we go.
you. It's your, I think your thing's being weird.
Yeah, you probably have to. In late September, the Trump administration revoked the U.S. visa of Colombian President Gustavo Petro.
Petro.
Revocation came after Petro spoke to the protesters in New York City, encouraging U.S. soldiers to refuse orders from Trump. Last month, the United States further sanctioned Petro and his family. Trump has promised to cut off all U.S. aid to Colombia. Petro has been one of the most outspoken voices against the U.S. military actions in the region, calling the boat attacks murder. U.S. government officials have committed a murder and violated our sovereignty in territorial water, Petro posted on social media. He named one Colombian man, Alejandro Cardanza, who was killed in the U.S. attack, calling him a lifelong fisherman.
Yep.
In mid-October, Petro called on Latin American countries to unite now to reject and react beyond mere rhetoric against any aggression against the homeland of Bolivar and the Latin American and Caribbean territory. Venezuela belongs to Venezuelans. We've seen some really promising rhetoric and arguments expressed by Petro, but it's not enough. Alexandra Avina, an associate professor of Latin American history at Arizona State University and an expert on the drug war, told Truthout. Historically, the only way that Latin America has managed to stave off catastrophic U.S. intervention is to come together as a region, and we haven't seen enough of that beyond rhetoric. I think also Mexico needs to be a lot stronger, more forceful in pushing back against what the U.S. is planning to do in the Caribbean, because eventually it's going to boomerang on them, he said.
Yep.
That boomerang now seems to be in motion. On November 3rd, news outlets reported the Trump administration was drawing up blueprints to send U.S. troops to combat trout cartels in Mexico, with or without the support of the Mexican government. The United States is not going to come to Mexico with the military, President Claudia Sheinbaum had previously said in August. We cooperate, we collaborate, but there is not going to be an invasion. That is ruled out, absolutely ruled out. Sheinbaum has also denounced the U.S. boat attacks, some of which have been hitting closer to Mexico. On October 28th, U.S. forces killed 14 people in 4 alleged drug boat strikes in the Eastern Pacific, roughly 400 miles from the Mexican city of Acapulco. Sheinbaum dispatched the Mexican Navy to search for survivors. We do not agree with these attacks, she said during her regular morning press conference. We want all international treaties to be respected. But Maine says Mexico is in a difficult position. Sheinbaum has definitely expressed her strong disagreement with these extrajudicial killings in the region, said Maine. But they're about to enter into a renegotiation of the United States-Mexico-Canada agreement. They're also negotiating this security cooperation with the U.S. and doing everything they can to avoid the U.S. violating their sovereignty in a significant way. The United States-Mexico-Canada agreement was Trump's renegotiation of the 1994 North American Free Trade Agreement. USMCA rolled out in 2020.
NAFTA.
Right.
For those who know.
But the trade deal goes under review every 6 years. Analysts say Trump is likely pushing for a hefty renegotiation ahead of the July 2026 deadline. Oh, sorry, you're doing that.
Yeah.
The Cuban and Brazilian presidents have also condemned the strikes. In Brazil, President Luiz Inácio Lula da Silva has offered to help mediate between Venezuela and the United States, even as his own country is negotiating over its own trade war with the United States.
He'll also negotiate with former head shopper Al Jelani too. So, you know,
right,
a lot of weirdness there, as we've stated previously a couple of times. So,
after Trump slapped Brazil with a 50% tariff for bringing his ally, former President Jair Bolsonaro, to trial for planning to carry out a coup.
Yeah, Bolsonaro.
Aside from leaders, there was Aside from leaders, there is popular movement across Latin America against the lethal U.S. actions in the Caribbean. People have protested in Cuba, Trinidad and Tobago, and Venezuela. But the U.S. military push into the Caribbean comes at a time when the region is far from united. Trump allies like Argentina's Javier Milei, El Salvador's Nayib Bukele, and Ecuador's Daniel Noboa have staunchly backed the U.S. lethal attacks on supposed drug boats. Bukele and Noboa have alleged ties to drug groups and narco trafficking. The problem is that, unlike the pink tide at the beginning of the 2000s, we now have a South America that is not so ideologically cohesive. Brazilian international relations professor Camille Fakes Vidal told Truthout, referencing the shift toward left-leaning governments emblematic of that era. So it will be very difficult to have a regional community to denounce this type of action. I think that, once again, we have seen throughout history, this shows that the United States is not reliable and that it acts by force for its own ends. Oh, yeah. Okay. So you said you've been watching this for a minute. So
covered it a few times.
What's your take?
Well,
so what's your
couple of things, right? You know, you hear people like Rubio weigh in on this recently, right? Talking about the Monroe Doctrine. Not talking about it, but more talking about like, well, we got it, you know, Iran's involved and Russia's involved and right, like they're playing this game again. right? Because it's essentially that's how we've had. It's like sovereignty over the Americas is U.S. practically, right? And like the Monroe Doctrine is they try to keep that for like allegedly, you know, keeping other empires out, right, and exploiting. Except we're the ones exploiting, so you know it's kind of it's more about the resource management, right? We have a free excuse. And like Trump said that it's definitely like we're willing to put that in effect, the Monroe Doctrine, you know? So that's part of it. But yeah, I mean, it's also Venezuela's oil. Like, there's a whole lot going on there. And like, the Caribbean is just kind of caught up in the middle of it. You know, their people are being affected. And we're also using them as like military bases. So, you know, as well as the resources. I think it's also an important context, like historically understanding why all these regions are important, right? When you think about the Caribbean, especially, like why was it important for wars to happen there and piracy to happen there, right? Like why? It's like you have to think geographically, you know, and like look at the resources and just region of the world they manage. Like there's a reason why we have all these islands in the middle of the ocean, you know? Like
and if you remember when we talked about the Barbados slave codes back like maybe a couple months ago, like at least historically, you know, United States, like people think that, oh, some slaves were dropped off in the Caribbean, some to the States or whatever. Like, depending on who you were and given where the need was, slaves were transported between to and from islands depending on the need.
Yep.
So it was more the idea, even back then, of exploitation or going where it was economically viable.
Right.
For the United States, well, for the West at the time. So, and I think in a lot of ways that's playing out now still in terms of, well, we see what Trinidad Prime Minister, that you know why she's acting kind of cagey, because they're like a hop, skip, and a jump from Venezuela. So like, you know, so any action that Trump takes against Venezuela will truly impact them in much more ways besides, you know, their connection to the oil with Venezuela, because they do trade with them for the oil there. So obviously they're going to get in the crossfires, which is why that explains her shadiness, as you saw in the article. But traditionally, you know, it's traditionally now still, the United States is going to go where they're going to exploit. So
you're hearing Venezuela like kind of go back and forth with this, you know, we are and aren't we asking Russia for help, right? Like it's because of that Monroe Doctrine shit, and like it's also because they also recently saw how Russia acted in Syria, and Lula is sitting over there directly dealing with the Western imposed leader, you know?
Right.
Like recently. So, you know, Venezuela is kind of looking at that and going like, maybe not, you know? So, I mean, there's stuff related to it's all like trade and resource stuff. If you just get down to the bottom of it, you know? Like Russian gas is involved too. Venezuelan gas is also involved, right? A lot of stuff going on, you know. So I mean, you recently saw BRICS try to do. They're going to have a carbon tax, you know, exactly like the IMF does, which impacts, you know, less expensive. Like you can either pay the fines or you can't, right? Like the ones who can't pay the fines then have to pay for actually dealing with the carbon. I think I saw indigenous Brazilians protesting that shit recently. Shadow, correct me if I'm wrong. But I mean, it's hard to tell if protests are even real anymore. But without further like investigation. So but the minute I see a fucking One Piece flag, you know what the fuck I'm gonna tell you though. Tired of seeing that shit. You know, that they get you some inflatable fucking Pikachus out there. It's meme wars, Collin. I made this thumbnail already. I did it back in fucking... I had fucking Pikachu fighting shit. Now it's real. They made my memes be dreams. No, stop it. Don't do it. Don't do it. Quit that. Knock it off. Like, anyway, anything else you wanted to add? I know we're missing a bunch. We should reach out to Camila Escalante's doing great reporting on this, as is Kasachu News. Go check them out. Fee's doing pretty good on it as well. Nico, I think, is hitting stuff on it as well. Pretty well. So
yes,
you know. But yeah, anything else you wanted to add?
No.
Cool. Well,
like I said, I think we need to get people who are more well served on this topic than us to give more.
Yeah, which we can do. We got some connects for that we can make. So,
and you guys can let us know if there's anyone, especially with this story. I mean, I don't think really even in independent media this story is talked about enough. I think especially from the Caribbean standpoint. Not Venezuela.
Yeah.
So let us know in the chat, or if you're watching this as a segment, if there's anyone you think we should talk to who can get more information to educate us on the significance of this situation, to reach out to us. So that being said, this is why we're demonetized, because we talk about stories like these that are not favorable to the algorithm or AdSense. So
just the names alone.
Right. So if you want to support us, hype up. You can scan the QR code. You can scan the QR code that you see on your screen, or you can go to the Ko-fi link you see at the bottom of your screen. Or if you're in the YouTube chat and you're live right now, you can type in !donate, all one word. The link will pop up, and you can give directly. Anything as low as $1 will gladly help us. And again, shout out to Jax for your $15 contribution. We love you and thank you. You can also give on Substack, PayPal, and Cash App. Those links are in the description below. And as we keep saying, we know that times are hard for a lot of people, especially if you're being affected directly or indirectly from the shutdown. So do not give your money if you're in a difficult situation. That being said, if you still want to support us, the best and probably the free way to do it is liking, subbing, and sharing our content. And check if you are still subbed, because sometimes YouTube does some ish and subs people randomly. So double check that. Although I don't think that, at least for us, I don't think that has happened,
right?
At least as of late. And make sure you leave a comment. That apparently also helps in the algorithm too, I guess. Help us get to 3K. We're about, I would say, about 350 away, I believe, as of now. So maybe by the end of the year we can hit 3K. And thank you for watching.
Yeah. Puppers wants out. That's what Puppers wants. Everyone speaks puppy here, right? Everyone knows how this works. Anyway, if you would like to check with chat,
Oh, dude.
Mouse SF.
We'll do that.
weren't the original pirates liberating slave ships? I don't know, Mouse.
No,
I feel like they were.
at least I haven't heard that.
I mean, my naval history, which I'm sure is heavily Western based information, so it could be wrong. You know, is that it was all like private, like government funded initially. I mean, like actual pirates. You know, it's all privateers first,
Mhm.
and then they figured out, oh, we can do this ourselves. Right? I mean, I think piracy's probably been around for a long time, the basic idea of it. You know, steal something on water. I think that's the basic plan, right?
I think so, yeah.
But don't know.
Let's see. Don't see anything else, I think, in relation to the segment. But then again, I kind of understand. Because I'm sure a lot of you may not know that information all so well. Somewhat, hold on. I did see some.
Jack's Page put in, thanks for all you do. Gave us a little $15 dono. We appreciate that. That's what I appreciate about yous. Discord.
So Mouse FF
Go ahead.
said Petro is kind of hella dope.
Yep. Indy, Argentina got 40 billion. And Angel also added just $24 million. What a joke. Yep. And you'll wonder why Puerto Rico doesn't want to vote to be that state. You'll wonder. You know? So it's not piracy if you can't own it. Says Sean the Accord Lord. Yeah, I don't know. I'm gonna look into that pirate thing though. That'd be a fun story to look into. All those places are interesting too, like Tortuga and like all those little pirate hangouts. Would be good to look at the actual history of that, I'm sure. So anyway, anything else you saw? We checked the rumbles.
No, that's it, I think.
Ghost Start saying Iron In bot over on the rumbles. Yeah. So, all right, you ready to get to our next one?
I am.
I'm ready. Ooh. So you heard about this, Collin? That they tried to ban THC. Well,
no.
Luckily, we have Mitch McConnell to talk about everyone's favorite, like lizard turtle person hybrid, you know. But is published over in Sludge, and I don't pull Sludge that often for reasons we might find out in this article. Even sometimes they can be a little weird, but usually pretty good, kind of go okay. You know, like they get the job done occasionally. So alcohol industry groups push to ban THC drinks in government funding bill. Have you seen these at the stores in DC? DC's legal for that, right? I think recreationally.
Yeah.
So
I haven't seen them personally, but it's legal here.
Right. Yeah. So, I mean, they're just drinks with THC in them. But a ban on hemp-derived products with THC was added to the bill, reopening the government, pitting Senator Mitch McConnell against fellow Kentucky Senators Rand Paul, a hemp industry supporter, and he's definitely been that for a while. Like, I remember him being on with one of the, was it Woody Harrelson? Jesus Christ, is my brain dumb, or is that who it actually is? I think that's who it is. Someone will let me know in chat. But like, so the longest government shutdown on record appears to have entered its end game after the Senate last night advanced a measure to extend government funding until late January in exchange for a December vote in the chamber on healthcare tax credits. Allegedly. That's the standard thing they're putting out there, right? Right. But the Senate vote to approve the legislation is being slowed at most for 5 days by a Republican holdout, Rand Paul, over an unlikely issue, its provisions that would ban intoxicating hemp products with THC. The hemp provision added to the Senate bill by GOP leadership, is a pet cause of retiring Senator Mitch McConnell and Rep. Andy Harris, who last year has chaired the House Freedom Caucus. It was added into the shutdown's ending funding bill after a lobbying push last week by trade groups representing large alcohol companies and beer makers. So I'm betting Anheuser-Busch, right? Like any other ones I've mentioned, you know? The legislation would strictly limit the overall THC allowed in products like the THC-infused beverages available in many stores to 0.4 milligrams per container. Paul says the provision would hurt Kentucky farmers, posting on X that it has nothing to do with reopening the government. The junior Kentucky senator is asking for a vote on his amendment subject to a 50-vote threshold that would strike the hemp provision. Now, 0.4 milligrams per container, the average stoners in our chat should be able to tell you that ain't much, you know? So, anyway, the U.S. Hemp Association says the ban would hurt farmers and is mobilizing its members to contact their senators in support of Paul's amendment. The group instead calls on Congress to craft what it calls responsible regulation for hemp products, like independent third-party testing and packaging standards. Hemp and its products were legalized in the Farm Bill passed by Congress in 2018, resulting in an explosion in hemp-derived THC drinks and a patchwork of state regulations on intoxicating hemp products. California Governor Gavin Newsom, for example, moved this year to ban consumable THC products as a whole. This summer, McConnell said that hemp companies looking to make a quick buck were using a loophole in the Farm Bill where he architected to make intoxicating substances when the laws were meant to allow for the industrial uses of hemp. Dave Infante, a journalist who covers the alcohol and beverage industries at Flingers, tells Sludge that large corporate alcohol suppliers saw an opportunity to strike out competitors in the growing multi-billion-dollar THC beverage industry, which that's I think the big deal, right? Where like they were fine with it until it started fucking making money, right? Which means they aren't getting that money, you know, like, so yeah, like hemp's adversaries struggled and failed to insert prohibitionary text into the Farm Bill, which is currently in revision, so the shutdown presented a unique opportunity for them to backdoor a THC ban into the bill that would reopen the government. Similar hemp provisions has been included in the Farm Bill being negotiated this summer, but Paul objected to their inclusion, threatening to block passage of the bill until they were removed, and McConnell acquiesced. At the same time, Politico wrote, McConnell views it as part of his policy legacy to close what he calls the hemp loophole from the 2018 omnibus. This year, both the House and Senate committees on appropriations have approved measures that restrict the sale of hemp-derived products, aiming to restore the original intent of the 2018 Farm Bill. Last week, a coalition of alcohol industry groups, including the American Distilled Spirits Alliance, the Beer Institute, and the Distilled Spirits Council of the U.S., sent a letter to congressional leaders arguing for a ban on intoxicating hemp products, echoing an October letter from 39 state and territory attorney generals. In addition, the Deep Pocketed Consumer Brands Association, whose members include Coca-Cola, Nestle, and W.K. Kellogg, recently called on Congress to close what they called the hemp loophole from 2018 disclosures, show that in recent months, alcohol industry clients lobbying on hemp or hemp-derived THC products included Anheuser-Busch, the Distilled Spirits Council, Bacardi, and Molson Coors. So, now explain to me why Coca-Cola, Nestle, and Kellogg need there to be less stoners for them. Because that is their demographic, I think, at this point. No? Like, motherfucker need his fucking Fruit Loops, dog. You know what I'm saying? Like, I mean, I'm just saying, but I'm saying, like, these I get. It's these that I'm like, why? Why? That would help you. You know? You need more people with munchies. So, yeah. Thoughts so far?
Well, I don't know. It's
because I have one.
Just say it.
So, this to me, all right. In Florida, we have medically legal weed, right? It costs you ridiculous amounts of money yearly to do that, right? You got to re-up your card. That's a fee. You know, you got to pay the doctor, right? Like, you know, you just pay the wink, wink, nudge, nudge doctor, and they do it for you, you know?
Right.
So, like, it just gatekeeps not being thrown in jail, right? That's what this is too, right? Where it's like you're getting rid of the people who can take this and still go to work, right? Because it's legal. Right? And if it gets tested while it's legal, I bought it at the, you know, like 7-Eleven, whatever. You know what I mean? Like,
sure.
That's who this affects most. So, but yeah, that was kind of why I brought it, you know? But
it just seems stupid to me. Like,
yep.
Overall, it's just like, again, this is just kind of a culture war thing to distract from actual issues, and then it's just another.
So there is another interesting take to this, right? So, I mean, World Health Organization also issues, you know, like alcohol bad. Hey, guy, alcohol also bad. Like, so, but I found this point interesting a little bit. So, like, the rise of THC seltzers, right? Big seltzer itself. Yeah, hemp derived. So the seltzers, Infante said, anecdotally, a lot of beverage associates have been wary of THC drinks that might be advancing messages about alcohol's negative health effects, right? So they're saying they're doing it in seltzers because seltzers are healthy and make alcohol look worse, you know? But correct me if I'm wrong, is they're not alcoholic seltzers?
Mm-hmm.
that also do the same level of fucking capitalist branding to be like, look, healthy, 0 calorie White Claw, delicious, consume, yum yum. Like, look, these ones taste like schnozberries or whatever the fuck, right? Like,
Right.
anyway, Trump supported the ban. It's a very good thing. I like everything else, but that one I just don't like. They tell me not to like it, I say okay. Like anyway. But yeah, I just brought it because it's a bit of fun shit that actually affects people, So
Right.
like, and it's just how Washington still works. Money talks. But yeah. Speaking of money talking, we appreciate all the donations because YouTube has demonetized us for giving you these messages. So this show is brought to you by viewers such as yourselves. You can scan the QR code on your screen and go to co-fi.com/Indie News Network, or links are in the description. So if you can do that, like and subscribe, hit the share button, leave a comment, let us know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching. We did it.
We did it.
What does chat have to say? Sean says the turtle, he loves Coke. Pepe, Boehner's making a shit ton off the weed. Yep. Yes, he is. I think I covered that too when he did it. Like, there's another Democratic one that jumped on too. I think Chucky the Shoom. I think
Probably.
Shoom's on board too.
Yeah, probably.
Mouse SF, hemp does not produce THC, dummies, but you see it does though. You see it kind of do. It's just not the same kind. But we can transform it. We have the technology. We can rebuild it into what is known as Delta 9. Like, so, yeah, I mean, it's a loophole. They just found the loophole. They're using it. And they're like, fuck it. So that's why you're seeing some of that shit. And like, they could sell it at Walmart. If it's federally legal, it's fine. Gonna make buku buck. It'll be right next to fucking Anheuser-Busch and White Claw. That's what they're scared of. They're like, oh shit. Cheap. Somewhat healthy, easily transportable. Very nice. But
Right.
yeah. Big Alcohol is doing it because Big Tobacco has no legs to stand on. Topher. Oof. Like, might as well put lungs in there. They have no lungs to stand on. Also would have worked. Like, Big Alcohol versus Big Weed and Big Seltzer. Don't forget Big Seltzer's part of this. Nestle is involved. Big Seltzer is here in this story. You heard it here first. All right. Here to get to our next one.
Yep.
Cool.
Hold on, let me just get this up. Get this ready here. Okay. So obviously you know from the title. We've talked about this ad nauseum on this show and on the network in general that we do not believe in electoralism. And I think, especially given, and I think this is probably appropriate timing to talk about this in light of I wanted to bring this in terms of Mandani, who we talked about last week, and now giving the fallout with the Democrats in terms of the shutdown and the crashing out that we're seeing from the base in terms of what these motherfuckers, which I totally understand. But I understand the crash out. I understand why people are pissed. I'm pissed too. But if you're looking at it in terms of electoralism, then yeah, it makes perfect sense.
Which, like, I think that's why like we're so frustrated, because like we've been here, like we've been here for a while, you know. So
we've been here for a while, but they're going to go back, and we keep saying wait till this time next year, or if not before, where they're going to tell you we're going to have to vote.
You're going to see it all over again.
Right.
Like,
and even they're saying this already with the governor of Virginia already, because now they're realizing, oh, she's just a milquetoast Democrat. Like, she isn't anything different. Like,
it's called branding.
Right.
Like, it's all
right. So
it's all show.
Like, right. You all talk, not y'all, like, but people are talking about like, oh, we have to get these Democrats in. But it's the very people that you don't necessarily want after they show their true colors once they're elected, if not before.
It seems that the only time you get in a position of power is if you like the people that are in power.
Well, that's why I say don't like them. Like, they're not your friends. Politicians on any level, local, state, federal, they are not your friends. They work for you. Like, you are their boss. Like, you're not some of you might be friends with your boss, but like they do not work for you. But so regardless, I think
they work for their donors.
This is perfect timing to talk about this, and at least for us to be on record.
But yeah, I mean, I think you're back, right? Test. Okay, but why you do chat? You were supposed to do the internet dance. Chat, did you do the internet dance?
No.
Chat, they didn't do it. Collin, they didn't do the internet dance. This is why I tell them, do the internet dance, and it works. But you were saying?
But yeah, like, I think more than ever, this is an appropriate time to talk about this, at least to kind of give some perspective as to probably some new ways that we can kind of think about it, I think, among the two of us. But I think for our audience, just thinking about it in terms of why electoralism is shit and how we really need to move away from this system into thinking about other things. And also just mostly just to be aware of the traps that even now, or definitely within the next year, of what people are going to tell you in terms of, oh, you have to vote for this person because of insert excuse here. So this article, I will admit, is very academic-y. And it's also long.
Yeah.
So I do suggest
today.
you read the whole thing. The link is in the description. I maybe pulled about 75% of it. But I think there's a lot of information in it and a lot of history in it that I don't think, not to say you guys will not benefit from, but I think for our purposes, not as necessary to talk about. You can read it by yourselves if you choose to. So this is written, actually, just to give some context, this article was written back in 2021. So from Spectre. This is written by David McNally and Charles Post, where they write, Beyond Electoralism, Mass Action and the Making of the Working Class. So let's get into it, because it's actually going to be a little long. So, oops, hold on.
Yeah, I got it for you.
Oh, my. Yeah, awesome.
How did it go that far? Where did it go? Go back.
Oh, crap.
One more back. That's it, right there.
No, I blew up my screen.
Yeah, you're okay. Technology.
What are you doing? Go back. Move over. There.
Go gadget.
Okay. All right.
Technology.
So anyway, let's get. Oh,
you're here. I got you. You're here. You do the thing. How about now? Testing?
okay. Yes.
Cool.
Yes. I think there's definitely something I have to do on my end. I think at least to fix my issue. It seems like it's me, but I don't think it's the internet. I think it's the server itself. But anyway, in late August 2020, the largest and most diverse anti-racist protest movement in the United States history was surging powerfully forward. Professional basketball players in 6 cities had just walked off the job to protest police violence against Black lives. The next night, players for the Los Angeles Lakers, led by LeBron James, unofficially voted alongside members of the LA Clippers to shut down the rest of the NBA season. The Women's National Basketball Association was already in protest mode, as were several teams in Major League Baseball. So we all remember this, right?
Thanks, Obama.
Professional athletes were on the brink of placing strike action at the center of the next wave of an uprising that had already seen up to 26 million people demonstrate in defense of Black lives. Such high-profile anti-racist strikes had the potential to inspire workplace activism and organizing, and to reignite a movement that had toppled Confederate statues, surrounded and occasionally burned police stations, and seized streets in a multiracial outpouring against racism. Enter Barack Obama. With a single phone. Thank you. With a single phone call, the former U.S. president demobilized the movement. In conversations with James and NBA Union President Chris Paul, Obama persuaded them to return to work and join with their employers, the team owners, in pushing voter turnout rather than strikes and street protests. In one fell swoop, electoralism has shut down mass mobilization. And you saw that within the last couple of weeks.
Yep.
We had the No Kings protest a couple of weekends ago. Democrats were there. They were saying, like Trump bad, blah, 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 blah. Now, fast forward a couple of weeks, look what Democrats did. So all that energy you spent, all that energy, not y'all, but all the energy that was spent going to the rally, because let's call it that it was a rally, not a protest. All that energy you went going to that rally, all the Democrats were supporting it, encouraging you to go, right? Because of Trump bad or whatnot, only for them to stab you in the back a couple of days ago. Same shit. Electoralism.
Yep.
Anyway, let's continue. So, and just for the record, and I've said this is why Obama is a piece of shit.
One of the reasons,
and I
yes.
said one of, I think in particular in this piece, for me personally, having been at those protests, getting pepper sprayed by the cops, the reason why this was so significant, because the world was watching. It's not like a lot of this stuff, like No Kings, no one, people like in the UK or Europe or Australia, Asia, whatever, they might take notice, but this was significant in terms of the NBA is watched worldwide. So the idea that they were willing to strike over Black lives would have had a global impact in terms of turning out and showing out in regards to what happened with George Floyd and talking about racism in general. And the idea that Obama squandered that and siphoned off that energy only for people to vote for Biden and tank it in terms of defund the police, which they basically broke down a little later on, is why I believe, among, as you said, among many reasons, Obama is shit. So that's electoralism in a nutshell and why it doesn't work. But let's continue. The dramatic demobilization of Black Lives Matter rebellion is an underappreciated aspect of Donald Trump's re-energized presidential campaign during the fall of 2020. During the BLM upheaval, one major public opinion poll after another showed substantial support ranging from 60 to 75% of those polled for protests against racial injustice. All of that quickly changed. As anti-racist protesters abandoned the streets, right-wing forces reclaimed them, particularly by way of Trump car caravans and similar tactics. Central to their mobilizations were aggressive displays of the symbols of white supremacy, from MAGA hats to Confederate flags. The results ought to have been predictable. With anti-racists retreating and Trump supporters belligerently waving their flags, far-right groups like the Proud Boys were re-emboldened. The result was a sharp shift in political dynamics, with pro-Trump forces gathering momentum and occupying public space. Meanwhile, Democratic Party officials worked overtime to discredit the anti-racist call to defund the police. Unsurprisingly, Trump's electoral support surged, winning him 10 million more votes than he had garnered 4 years earlier, and making the presidential contest much more closer than had been widely predicted. And I would argue that it should have been. Yeah. Honestly, it shouldn't have been that close. But anyway, we cannot know for certain what impact a continued BLM uprising would have had on the outcome of the 2020 election. But we can say with certainty that had the athlete strike spread, the movement would have moved into a higher gear. The withdrawal of labor is a powerful and electrifying tactic. It reveals to working people something fundamental about their potential collective power. A high-profile athlete strike could have inspired even more people to join the struggle. Indeed, a significant network of college teachers were beginning to organize anti-racist job action at the very moment the struggle receded. An NBA strike could have also galvanized student walkouts, just as it would have emboldened union organizing at Amazon and beyond, which was also going on at the same time.
Yeah.
The Obama-driven turn to electoralism squandered the exciting possibilities of a unique historical moment. But it would be too easy to simply blame Obama. In truth, few on the left objected when the athletes shifted from strike action to working with their bosses to help get out the vote. Many on the US left embrace the idea that elections are the key to socialist political action and power. Writing in Jacobin, Paul Hyman posted an identity between electoral campaigns and mass politics, implying that those who do not embrace electoral activity simply cultivate an embrace of marginality. At no point does Hyman even contend with the idea that mass strikes or popular mobilizations for racial and gender justice might constitute forms of mass politics too, or that could just give birth to new, ongoing mass organization, which kind of goes along with what
co-opted every fucking union. It's, it's like any and all to deal with this problem of funnel. The only power you give people is the power to vote. Every other power is completely fucking controlled and manipulated.
Which we played the Kwame Ture clip last week where that's basically what you were saying. Voting is the means to organize, not the means to an end. In terms of you vote for the person, you dust off your hands, and you go about your day.
Right.
No, it's the means to do this. It's the means to organize. So we're having it all wrong. It should cultivate something in terms of your organizing, not giving your power, basically really the only power we have at this point, towards, okay, we're giving you our hopes and dreams and we're giving it onto you. Do with it what you will, and they never do. So it's a way of co-opting the very actions that you need in order to organize and to actually make change happen. And essentially, we're squandering it in terms of them saying to you via propaganda, "Oh, you just need to vote or vote harder for the right people to come in, and maybe, hopefully, one day you might get like an incremental change that is one step closer to progress."
Which I feel like we should do some more discussions on the topic of like anti-electoralism in general, right? Because I don't think people understand, and especially on organization, because I feel like the term is very subjective, right? And like what that's supposed to mean, and if that is even a viable tactic anymore, like, you know, or is it something else? Me and Vanessa were talking about things like the yellow vests and shit.
I'm not an expert on this, but it definitely needs to evolve for sure.
Yeah,
because the way that we organized back 60 years ago cannot be done in the same way.
Yeah, it's
now,
like it has to be more decentralized and shit. Essentially,
decentralized and less social media-y, I would argue. Like,
I mean, it depends on how that's
opinion,
used, but yeah,
right. But I say less social media-y because, especially with the surveillance state, like it would be very easy for people who want to kind of squash it too.
Right. Me and Indy also talk about it just as far as like you're kind of being complicit in that system, and like one of the ways that I've talked about, like almost trying to invalidate the vote completely, right? As like clearly when you look at voting machines and who owns them and you know, voter fraud, all that shit, and just how everything's stacked against you, especially if you're trying to change it from the inside. Please don't think that's a possibility. Like, but like, if enough people didn't do that act at all, you could almost invalidate the results. Like for the country, like, hey, like only like 0.5% of people vote, you know, like where are they getting the numbers, you know? But anyway, I tangented, but anyway,
but yes, let's continue. Revolutionary socialists have never rejected participation in electoral politics. What they have contested is the elevation of electoral campaigning to the strategic priority for people of the left. From Karl Marx to Rosa Luxemburg, from V.I. Lenin to C.L.R. James, there has been a general agreement that, where possible, the socialist movement should use electoral activity to promote its program and popular mobilization. Again, what Kwame Ture said, essentially. What the radical wing of the socialist movement has consistently challenged, however, is the idea that class struggles outside the electoral arena should take a backseat to elections. On the contrary, radicals have insisted mass extra parliamentary struggles are more strategically important than electioneering. This claim is based on two political insights. First, that parliamentary politics are distorted and potentially disabling because they operate on the alienating terrain of capitalist state institutions. And second, that the advance of working class power requires insurgent mobilizations that produce political ruptures from this alienated political space. Without the latter, entry into the political institutions of the capitalist state will tend to defang and incorporate the left, which again, we have seen plenty of times, right? So we will get more into that. The capitalist state as an alienated social relation.
Right.
It is obvious that bourgeois elections are dominated by money, not the power of people in the streets. It is equally clear that big money politics disadvantage working class and poor people's candidates and parties. But the disadvantage here is that much more than strictly quantitative, that is, the fact that the ruling class has more wealth with which to dominate the electoral arena. Much deeper quantitative effects are at play, having to do with the fundamentally alienating character of money and the liberal state. As Marx reminds us, the dominance of money is an index of social alienation. In a society dominated by money, connections among people have become extract and quantitative. The social life and interactions one experiences are governed by the quantity of money one represents. The individual carries his social power, as well as his bond with society, with its pocket. The dominance of quantitative wealth expressed in money thus assumes a qualitative form. Social interconnections are refined, transformed into relations among things, commodities, and money. As a result, in capitalist society, the mutual interconnection among people appears as something alien to them, autonomous as a thing. What is often neglected is that Marx viewed the modern state too as an expression of alienated social relations. Because the overriding focus of social democracy.
Hold on. I'll fix it.
And you're on slide 45.
Good to know. I think that's it.
Okay. Because the overriding focus of social democracy is on the electoral capture of the state, it evades the alienating status of the liberal state. For Marx, however, democracy in capitalist society is purely formal and abstract. Rather than a system in which people engage in self-government, liberal democracy requires that they alienate the capacity for self-rule to unaccountable representatives and non-elected officials. This alienation of power produces political passivity. Instead of exercising power, people become administered by power. Membership in the body politic becomes empty and formal. Rather than participating directly in deliberative processes focused on people's unique social material needs, including their needs for individual development, the liberal citizen is limited to the formal act of voting for politicians who lack accountability and are bound to respect the rights and prerogatives of capitalist property. In short, capitalist democracy substitutes an alienated system of elite representation for the democratic principle of a self-governing demos, people. As Ellen Menskins-Wood argued, liberalism thus represents the antithesis of democratic self-government, not the exercise of political power, but its relinquishment, its transfers to others, its alienation. So, essentially, it's basically saying we're not exercising our political power in its true form, but as I said earlier, we're transferring it to other people in the hope that they'll do it on our behalf, which actually, essentially, if you think of it that way, that's what liberalism is.
Right.
In its form. It's the idea of like politicians, instead of governing for the rights of the people, they're just giving, it's kind of that passivity, the laziness in terms of instead of working towards the people, they're giving their power essentially to corporations and their donors to be like, you tell us what to do, because obviously they have the money and the power in order to, or they give them the money and the power in order to make them do what they want. And collectively, as a society among the poors, we do not have that kind of pull or sway with them. So it's the idea that, and I think that's where they kind of call it the alienation. That's kind of where it is. We're separated from them, not in terms of, well, we've kind of been complicit or propagandized, whatever you want to call it, to believe that they're going to do it for us rather than being activated to force them to do it for us in terms of their power and their wealth and their prestige.
Right.
So I mean, I'm not sure if I made any sense there, but I think that's kind of
I feel
what
like it's
I took from it.
Right. Yeah.
All right. Let's continue. This is why ruling class politicians like Obama are so keen to channel the energies of insurgent mass action into passive politics of electoralism. The anti-racist upheaval of 2020 was an exercise in disalienating political life. It involved millions of people taking direct action to reshape the practices and institutions of their society. In this regard, it demonstrated Marx's insight that direct self-activity of masses of oppressed people in generating new relations of collective power and solidarity is crucial to their self-transformation into agents of their own collective liberation. Such emancipatory movements offer dramatic counterpoints to the alienated politics of bourgeois elections. Rather than an arena for self-mobilization, liberal electoral politics comprises a dominant of passivity where people consume activity, campaign advertising, and reenact the transfer of power from the demos to the elites. Again, the socialist left can and should intervene in elections by running its own independent candidates who are actively promote extra electoral struggles and are accountable to organizations of workers and oppressed. So, what we have said, many times, like, but even like remember Fee saying this, even with that, can be dangerous.
Yeah,
especially if you're wanting to play the game within
the
current system.
Easily manipulated too, because you're still trying to play by the rules of the system that is rigged against you about 80,000 times to 1. So
if they mean independent in terms of like Greens or whatever, like that's the danger there. So that might be the only thing here that I disagree with is you're playing their game if you choose to go in that system. So that's not going to work either. It has to be outside the system in order to try and get things accomplished, outside of our corporate structure here. But this requires an approach designed to disrupt the normal forms of passive electoralism rather than reinforcing them. This sort of fixation on elections and parliament leads to the incorporation of left parties into the machinery of the state. Oh, God. This is Mandani right here, basically. Like this is the Justice Democrats right here. Like all these so-called progressive candidates, this is what it is. Where the ticket to the dance is the renunciation of disruptive mass struggles. It focused their aspirations and their consciousness on vote getting and parliamentary maneuvering. In doing so, it tames and domesticates their representatives while bureaucratizing their organizations, which comes to rely upon the professional layer of parliamentarians and their functionaries, speechwriters, assistants, researchers, PR people, all of whom are subsidized by state budgets. This is especially disabling when labor unions and radical social movements of all sorts are weak, since most working people will have little or no experience of successful collective action against capital and the state. Their existing consciousness will tend to be a complementary allogram of radical views mingled with mainstream common sense. That is why, to win a majority, politicians typically appeal to the lowest common denominator consciousness, and often to its most reactionary aspects. They will obsessively avoid radical ideas about policy or organizing. This is why, even as a self-proclaimed socialist, Bernie Sanders did not embrace the demand to defund the police, and why he calls for increased police wages and budgets. Again, this was written back in 2021. Keep that in mind.
Yeah.
It is also why he did not unequivocally support all aspects of the BLM uprising, especially those that involved lawbreaking. Contrary to some claims, activists do not learn the skills or develop the radical ideas needed to build mass, disruptive social movements through participating in conventional electoral politics. Where elections of progressives and radicals have brought gains for working people, they have invariably been accomplished by independent grassroots upsurges. In the absence of such pressure from below, leftists in office almost routinely implement austerity measures, as the experience of left governments from France's social government under François Mitterrand in 1981 to the Syriza government in Greece in 2016, which capitulated to the demands of the global financial institutions. Wait.
This one.
Oh.
'Pretty sure.
48. 48.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah, 48.
That's 48.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that's it. 48. That's good. Probably right ahead too. Electoral campaigns, even those with socialist candidates, typically have a very different dynamic. Winning an election requires none of the grassroots mobilizing, risk-taking, and building of solidarities that are inherent in radical social struggle. To win an election, you need to appeal to more than 50% of voters and get them to the polls, or get them to mail in their absentee ballots on election day. Not only do the people you organize electorally remain isolated and passive, rather than active participants in their own liberation, but election campaigns that focus on winning must appeal to the voters' existing consciousness.
Right.
This is especially disabling when labor organizations and radical social... Oh, wait.
Yeah. And then you might have read this one. You just went back one.
I went back. Skipped. Okay. Okay. Well, I think I might have just did it twice. Okay. Oh, sorry, friends. Again, it does not follow that radicals should, in all circumstances, boycott electoral activity. Socialists have long utilized the electoral sphere to give a broad political voice to the struggles of working and oppressed people. Such campaigns focus on popularizing the demands and activities raised in mass struggles like defund the police, refund communities, and on fostering mass mobilizations like street marches, strikes, and rallies. They prioritize building popular struggle and self-organization as higher goals than winning political office. Candidates associated with radical campaigns of this sort must also be accountable to left-wing activists and organizations that do the on-the-ground organizing. And they must commit to resisting the pressures experienced by all elected officials to be realistic and accept the limits of capitalist social order. Such campaigns, even in support of open socialists, are impossible within the Democratic Party, whose program, finances, and structure ensure the domination of corporate interests. Indeed, in early March of this year, again 2021, Democratic Party officials gutted the resources of their own party organization in Nevada after activists associated with the DSA were elected to top party offices. In protest of this Democratic result, party staffers resigned, and more telling, officials transferred $450,000 from party bank accounts in order to deprive the DSA-aligned state organizations of funds. This is just the latest evidence that socialist campaigns require socialist organizations, even embryonic ones. No doubt, the space for independent socialist political campaigns today is limited, often to one-party cities and congressional districts in which third-party candidates cannot be accused of being electoral spoilers. Such campaigns can merely prefigure the sort of independent, nationally organized, multiracial, working-class political party that the U.S. has never seen. It is also clear that such a party cannot be launched outside of new upsurges of struggle and mass organization, possibly on the scale of the 1930s. Only when a significant minority of working people experience their collective power outside the electoral arena in the streets, at workplaces, and in their communities, will they see the point of using elections to build mass organizational struggle? In the context of insurgent struggles, it will seem reasonable, in ways it typically does not today, to waste their vote by supporting the campaigns of independent labor or socialist candidates who do not have an immediate prospect of winning office. Of course, nothing of that sort was on offer in 2020, nor it will ever be on offer from Democratic Party candidates. Once again, people were called into the electoral arena as abstract and autonomized individuals, not members of insurgent collectivities. Their participation was overwhelmingly passive in character. They were summoned to choose their poison, in which the form of which representative of a ruling class party would govern over them. Then they were thus instructed to abdicate the exercise of political power in favor of its relinquishment, its transfer to others, its alienation. Little surprise that few echoes of popular anti-racist insurgency for a few months earlier were heard in that domain. I mean, this, this. I mean, how true is this? Like,
well, and I feel like a lot of us who went through this, like, it's now the most frustrating thing in the world to see it just repeat over and over again. When, like, people,
right.
To people who should know better, to the point where I'm like, why even mention this at this point? Is this not like that's the frustration in our heads. It's been like, we're doing this again? Like, you know, like it's just almost, you gotta ignore it, like the whole thing.
Well, that's the thing. I think or at least me, we cannot, because it's like you're falling for the same shit again. Like, yeah. And I think a lot of it is, it's because people do not know what organizing is. I think at the core, people do not know what it is, what it entails, and it's not sexy. It's like, it's a lot of work, it's a lot of sacrifice, it's a lot of diligence, it's a lot of discipline. People don't have the time, rightly so, because of work or whatever else. But like, there's also people, like I remember Crystal Ball saying once, like doing the organizing is something that she does not want to do. That's not her jive, or something to that end. Which, fine, you know, but it's not fit. But she's the one who's telling us and others of that ilk that, you know, they might say possibly organize, do whatever. They might tell you, if you want to do that. I'm just going to be here in my studio telling you to vote for the people who are leading us to our destruction. While the same breath being able to say, I hate this person sucks, or whatever else. So it's just...
You there?
Yeah, I'm not sure what you missed, if anything.
No, nothing. You were going.
Okay. But yeah, I think it's just frustrating, because these are people that most people are watching. And this is the propaganda that's being spread in terms of vote. Like, it's your civic duty. It's your, like, that's what I hear. It's your duty. And it's like, maybe, but again, it's not on the basis of vote and then walk away when you're done. Like, after you spent like 15 minutes of your time, possibly, it could be a lot longer, sorry, but like, you know, I'll say for many people, about 15-20 minutes of your time every couple of years or more to do that and go home, when that should be, again, the catalyst for making these things happen. So, and that's again why I'm fearing of Vic Bandani, because he played right into this playbook. You know, we talked about how he talked with Blakely before he won at the press conference that she had with him. It's like, oh, it's just going to take 15 minutes. Like, he said it, like, exactly this. It's just like, oh, like if you're organizing, yes, you need to continue that. But for people who are kind of concerned about him in terms of all this electoralism, he was like, it's only going to take 15, 20 minutes. He undermined, and that was my beef, he undermined the work that has been happening, whereas he should have been elevating it in terms of use this moment to keep me accountable of the things that I should be doing. And that's the thing that got me mad. And Blakely was just nodding, being like, yes, I agree with you, what you were saying. So that was kind of my beef with him, which, but they're all like this. It's like he didn't do anything different aside from the right timing, I guess, of saying the political sweet nothings of what people want.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
But what is that going to go to?
It's all marketing. Like, it's not even
right.
Like, people forget what just normal politicians act like. Like, that's what you're supposed to do. As far as, like, you want to win votes, like, you say the right things within reason so that your donors don't get pissed off. And then you fucking capitulate at the end of the day anyway. Don't matter. None of it matters.
Right.
Like, that's my frustration. Like, have you watched the show Silo yet?
Mm-mm.
Like, there's a bit in it where it's like they kind of figure out like the whole thing is like rigged against them.
Mm-hmm. Right.
Like, to the point where even the options they've taken were like accounted for,
Sure.
And like, so, and like literally they just like, they just like accept it. They're like, oh, well, we're fucked,
Right.
So like, that's where we've been at for like, since the Bernie exit for sure. I dim exited. I was done. And then it didn't take me that long to go, okay, it's all stupid.
Yeah.
So, but, anything else? I think we got a bit more.
Yeah, we do. So, where are we? Sorry, here. Wait.
There.
Yes. Sorry. Yep. So, racism, class struggle, and remaking of the working class. Given these realities, it was not surprising that the demobilization of the BLM uprising in favor of electioneering was a gift to the right. While Biden narrowly won the presidential election, politics is much more about the dynamics of social forces about who holds office. However much Trump controlled the White House in the summer of 2020, his administration increasingly lost control of the streets and the battle for public opinion. As millions marched and toppled racist monuments, as athletes took to their knees during the national anthem and struck in defense of Black lives, the political climate was being progressively transformed. The deliberate demobilization of that anti-racist insurgency allowed Trumpites, Proud Boys, and other vital voices to reclaim the streets and to build up their confidence in public activity. Meanwhile, activists inspired by the uprising were undermined by the hit job Democratic officials launched against the radical demand to defund the police, the very demand that had stirred the imagination of activists, new and old, throughout the country. Sure, but I also saw a lot of activists, even on the ground in 2020. So yes, that's true. But but as I said, there were actively people even on the ground who are actively trying to electoralize people into the idea of voting rather than continuing doing what they were doing.
Yeah.
So, just to give some insight especially being on the ground that day. As Democratic leaders rolled out their uninspiring neoliberal agenda, weeks earlier, the anti-racist rebellion had dominated the headlines and forced this agenda into the public domain. Now the initiative belonged to the right, who mobilized pro-Trump car caravans and waved their Blue Lives Matter flags. We emphasize these shifting social dynamics because disrupting mass action plays a vital role in the transformations of consciousness and experience that enable the remaking of the working class as a radical social force. Rather than assuming that workers are always incipiently revolutionary, Marx keenly appreciated the patterns and experiences that inhibit racial activity and consciousness among workers. Crucial in this regard are the conservatizing effects of competition among workers, which reinforce the immense influence of the dominant ideas, practices, and institutions. We have seen this on frightful display across the neoliberal period. As historical materialists recognize, workers are not only collective producers with a common interest in taking collective control over social production. They are also individual sellers of labor power in conflict with each other over jobs, promotions, etc. As competing sellers of labor power, workers are open to the appeal of politics that pit them against one another, other workers, especially workers in a weaker social position. It appears possible for the stronger sections of the working class to defend their positions by organizing on the basis of already existing ties against weaker, less organized sections. They can take advantage of their positions as Americans over and against foreigners, as whites over and against blacks, as men over and against women, as employed over and against unemployed, etc. In so doing, working people may act initially only out what they perceive to be their most immediate self-interest. But over time, they inevitably feel the pressure to make sense of these actions, and they adopt ideas which can make their actions reasonable and coherent. These ideas are, of course, the ideas of the right. Thus, neoliberalism must be seen as a set of transformations running across political culture and consciousness, as well as through state and economy. Neoliberalism eroded the infrastructures of dissent that had been built among working class people in earlier periods. Neoliberalism succeeded in large measure because it triggered a cycle of unmaking of working class movements in the global north and beyond, perhaps nowhere more dramatically than the United States, where union density collapsed to be about 10% by 2019, less than a third of its post-war peak. As unions were defeated and strike activity and workplace resistance dramatically declined, working class cultures and organizations disintegrated. The social presence of union values of cooperation and solidarity eroded throughout working class communities. This involved not just a numerical decline in unions, but a qualitative shift to the right in attitudes, values, and practices, as norms of individual competition displaced those of collective organization and struggle. Increased social fragmentation and the decline of collective solidarities fostered societal and racial antagonisms, which are built into capitalist society. And as these divisions and antagonisms deepened, enormous space was pried open for right-wing deployments for the radicalized trope of the black criminal as a symbol of social crisis. Racial panic, constructed among tropes of black criminality, reframed a crisis of growing unemployment, declining living standards, cuts to social worker, and growing precarity as a crisis within and between workers. To be sure, other radicalized figures were joined to that of the black criminal, the Muslim terrorist, the illegal Mexican, the castrating feminist, the violent anti-fascist, Antifa, and so on.
Mm-hmm.
So to end it, this is where they end. So we reject the prioritization of electoral activity, not simply because of the severe limits of what can be achieved through the institutions of the capitalist state. We center a politics that fosters the self-transformation of the working class because it is only through insurgent struggle that the working class can remake itself as a radical force. Again, this was central to Marx's vision of the processes by which the working class can make itself fit to remake the world. Marx argued that revolutionary struggle is essential means by which oppressed people can change on a mass scale. If socialist transformations is to be possible, people who have been infected by all the bigotries and mystifications of an oppressed society must transform themselves into a force for solidarity, cooperation, and the regeneration of society. It follows, Marx wrote, that the revolution is necessary, therefore, not only because the ruling class cannot be overthrown in any other way, but also because the class overthrowing it can only in a revolution succeed in righting itself of all the muck of ages and become fitted to found society anew. Showing up at a voting station to draw a few X's does not radically transform the people involved. It does not undermine deep social divisions and antagonisms among working people or build anti-racist and feminist working class struggle, solidarity, and consciousness. It does not allow workers to rid themselves of the muck of ages. For such alterations to take place, particularly on a mass scale, insurgent popular struggles are required. In revolutionary activity, the changing of oneself coincides with the changing of circumstances. The road to remaking the working class will not come primarily through electoral politics, and definitely not through campaigns run through the Democratic Party in the US. Instead, radicals and revolutionaries must again prioritize mass struggles, strikes, demonstrations, occupations, and the like, all around demands of working and oppressed peoples. Clearly, mass uprisings, like last year's struggles against racist police violence, will be episodic. In a society in which people are constantly subjected to economic and social pressures to survive, it is impossible to keep millions permanently mobilized in the streets. What historical experience has demonstrated, however, is that it is possible to build independent, radical mass organizations of the left that bridges the gaps between waves of struggle and that also amplify, deepen, and extend those waves. The task of radicals in periods of lull in mass mobilization, when many people retreat to the individual struggle to survive under capitalism, is to build ongoing, independent organizations to maintain growing networks of activists and organizations that are prepared for the next upsurges. Such democratic grassroots organizations allow militants to continue to organize and educate around the politics of multiracial class struggle and to resist being absorbed into the alienating spheres of liberal electoral politics and lobbying. Imagine the political situation in the US today if a national network of police abolition activists had been created in the summer of 2020 to continue the struggle for defunding the police in different localities, one that carried the movement into unions, schools, and neighborhood organizations. Imagine that if the work had been deeply integrated into the union organization drive at Amazon in Alabama, and into many similar campaigns, from rent strikes to campaign among nurses, teachers, and grocery store workers. That is the direction in which we must set our sights. It is in building infrastructures of dissent, new unions, anti-racist and feminist organizations, tenant associations, new socialist media and organization that today's militant minority can build for the transformation struggles of tomorrow. But to do this requires that horizons extend far beyond electoralism and that our priority to change society and to assist the self-transformation of workers into a class that can remake the
Cool.
I mean, in a lot of ways, get off your ass. You know, like, which it's not what a lot of people want to do.
Anything other than voting, pretty much.
Well, you know what? But you know what it is? This will require people to be uncomfortable. To be uncomfortable with their position, to be uncomfortable with their status.
Yep.
and to accept if I truly want to make change, I have to let go of the things that are keeping me where I are in order to ensure. And to be fair, there have been people even in our space that admitted, I don't want to do that. I'm comfortable where I'm at. Fine. Thank you for doing that. But don't try and play radical when it's convenient and then turn the other way towards electoralism when it's your team in control and forcing us, or at least suggesting to us, that we should do the same thing. So, but I think it also kind of makes me realize just, I think, and I think to be fair to us, I think especially in the space, we try to highlight a lot of these organizations and grassroots activists that actually do the work, but I don't think we do that often enough. I think even for us, we still get caught in the mainstreamness of it all in the space. And in terms of, oh, we got to follow this story in order for clicks and views or whatever, versus how are we using our platform to elevate actual organizing, actual of this work, and do it on a more consistent basis to educate and to inspire people to do something similar so that they can be empowered to do this work. But instead, we just kind of get caught up in the drama of this person said this happened in Congress, and we don't get anywhere. And it's a distraction in terms of what we should be doing. But that's not favorable here. Sadly, that's not favorable to YouTube. So I think, as you've said many times, we have to kind of separate. And that's kind of why, for me personally, like, it's not to say I don't like doing this. As
the president, go ahead. Fine. Go ahead.
Yeah, let me just finish my thought. Sorry. But like, that's why I kind of stepped away from this in a sense, because it's not to say there isn't any benefit, but I feel like, not us necessarily, but I think just within our personal ecosystem, like, this is the stuff that we're not necessarily talking. This is the stuff that, it's about, again, the drama, the clicks, the views, the salaciousness of it all, in order for people to watch and to be reactionary in their responses. Versus, what can we be doing at long term? What is our goal towards liberation? And what do we have to do in order to get there, no matter how long it takes? And who are the people that are actually doing the work that can help get us there and empower our audiences to do the same thing, so that more rallies, not even rallies, but like demonstrations, like whatever needs to happen to challenge the system in a way that's not right now, to actually being forced to move in our direction. Okay, I'm done. So you can go ahead.
You're done. No, I was just going to add that, like, as the president of the Guillotine Craftsman Union, I do feel like that might be the best way to organize at this point,
GUILLOTINE.
But shame we don't learn from history more often, like, just saying. Yeah, I feel you, dog. Anything else you wanted to add?
No,
or you're done.
Like I said, there's a lot that, surprisingly, there was a lot I cut out from this article, but I think at least for me, it's a good start to kind of refer back to, in terms of, because people are like, why are you against it? Like electoral.
Yeah, how long? How long do you have? Because we're gonna be a minute to explain it.
Well, how long was this segment? What's this segment going to be now?
And I feel like we just scratched it. It's like, this is from 2020.
Right, exactly. Right.
This is like, hooked on financing this problem.
Just even with what I read here, it was kind of heavy, but this is just only the beginning in terms of how I feel. So, but I think I wanted to read this because at least it's able to articulate, again, very academic language, but nevertheless, is able to articulate somewhat better into what we've been saying, what other people have been saying, as to why we have not. Again, it's not to say we have nothing to do with it, but it shouldn't be the highlight of what we do. Like that should, if anything, that should be the floor of what we do. So
yeah, but see, that's the 2020 thought. Like, there's a lot after that too that might make you think even that's not worth it. You know, like,
right.
So, you know, but we're moving in the right direction for sure. You know, but
sure.
Anyway, this the thing, because YouTube's definitely not going to like this one. For damn sure.
No.
So
do the thing, scan the code.
Yeah.
Or type in the Ko-fi link. Exclamation point donate if you're in the YouTube chat and you are live. The Ko-fi link will come up. If you can't give, that's fine. Times are hard. So,
yeah.
Like and subscribe to us. But seriously, let us know what you think. How do you feel about electoralism now? Again, this was kind of lengthy, but does this kind of explain for people why, at least for us, why we're not fans of it, why we believe anyone on the left should not be fans of it, and what would it look like for you to move away from electoralism? Like, what organization do you think needs to happen in order to move away from the system of just voting and hoping and praying that politicians will do right by us? Let us know what you think. Or if you're involved in stuff like this and you want to come on here to talk about it, let us know too. I think we definitely need to have these conversations moving forward in terms of kind of pushing the envelope a little bit, especially among our peers, to do better in the space in terms of what we produce and put out there for you all to consume. Because again, I don't think the idea of just talking about this person did this thing, that person did that thing. Yes, it might be true, but how can we move away from that? Especially given a lot of these people will say, oh, this person sucks, or the Democratic Party sucks in particular, but will still tell you to vote for them anyway. So obviously that's a system that is not working and they don't care. So what can we do to move away from that to give these people in particular less breathing room? Because they seem to dominate the space in terms of their words. And we can't continue to promote their ideas. So let us know what you think. Help us get to 3K. If we can get that by the end of the year, that would be great. And thanks for watching.
Cool. How's chat holding up? Chat, you doing okay? You staying hydrated? You doing all the things? Sean the Accord Lord. BLM sadly was co-opted once they knew it was really a thing. Yep. Pretty much.
Yes.
Exactly how this happens with all of them. You know? Like, they figure it out
as
quick.
I said earlier, that the thing, No King's protests, well, that was slightly different because that was organized among the elites. So BLM was actually more organic in that. Well, at least initially was more organic in that regard, but then it got co-opted.
Same thing with the Panthers. Same thing with like it fucking always happens with this shit.
Right.
You know, like,
which is why actually now you said that, because so those you don't, I didn't say this, but like I got into a Twitter fight with Howard Professor. You saw this. I think I sent it to you. Like, yeah, basically, like, I can't even call it Trump derangement syndrome. It's just like
a bit of that,
whatever that is, but elevated.
Sure.
There isn't,
and it was also just very arroganty, like
no, because he was like
academic talking down to, chin in the air.
Yeah, but I found it. I guess I shouldn't have been surprised.
With
but
very
it was still the
predictable
idea.
answers.
But this was like this is an African American studies professor who really should be in the business of liberation talk, basically.
Yeah.
But basically talking down to me, basically being like, essentially he was saying, you know, like, well, he called me a child, number one, or childish.
Which, like,
you know,
what?
from my views, I'm like,
okay, like,
but essentially he was just like, you know, basically like, shut up, and you need to support the Democratic Party. Even well, no,
I ain't scared of you, motherfuckers.
No, he called them partially complicit.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, no, they're fully complicit in the bullshit. Fully complicit. Like, if you're going to analyze the Republican Party, you have to analyze why we're here. And that's often due to the cause of the Democratic Party. They work in tandem.
I wish that people were smarter, personally. I think these politicians, both parties suck. But I think they do a really good job of making us not like each other. But what America really has become is rich people against poor people.
Right. So, again, I shouldn't have been that surprised, but it was still surprising that this man who should be teaching about Malcolm X, MLK, and I even showed him a couple of things, and he was just like, and basically, like, that told me nothing. So I was like, okay, I just feel sorry for your students. Like, if I had to pay to have you as a professor only to talk that mess to me, I would have felt a waste of my time and a waste of my money. Now I can understand, like, my dad not trusting academia for that reason, because it's like,
ones who don't have
what are
been
you
in
paying
it,
your money for?
like,
what are you giving your money for if you're going to just be capitulated into mainstream politics in that way?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, just a brief aside. I just thought it was ridiculous. But
yeah.
Nevertheless, I muted him. I'm like, I'm tired of you. So
be done. You lose, sir. Good day. Anyway, let's get to our last one.
Yes.
So, I don't know if you saw this lady, Collin, in your algorithms this week. But
no,
I did. I saw some people share it. But we'll get to this in a second. But I saw this as well. Came up in my feed, right? And from Nico, right? Who writes, a lot of us care about Sudan. A lot of us have been talking about it. The problem is that the algorithms won't allow Sudan to go viral. Gaza goes viral because those who've done the damage are boosted by the algorithms to defend the crimes they support and commit. The perpetrators of the massacre happening in Sudan are doing everything they can to avoid accountability, which includes not blaming anyone at all except the people of the nation, because there is no October 7th to point to. There is no Holocaust to hide behind. There is no real justification for the horrors being committed there. It's theft, slavery, and murder caused by an amalgamation of the most powerful countries in the world. And all of this is exactly why it's crucial for people to keep reminding us that the media and the elite don't want us to talk about Sudan, so we must go out of our way to keep discussing it, along with DRC, Libya, and even what's about to take place in Nigeria. The way to a multipolarity starts and ends on the African continent. Just a few nations taking their countries back from the West brought France to its knees. Imagine what the empire will do to ensure we don't see more NATO powers crippled to the degree France has been. or more so, to disallow other African nations unite in power and find the success the AES nations have. So, and this is like, there's a lot to this. It's a very nuanced bit of geopolicy, right? Especially when you start talking about multipolarity and things.
Right.
There was a guy recently I was talking to you about that was like mentioning anti-polarity, that you don't want any of them having pole position, you know, like,
right.
So, which we've talked about here, where that may not be the exact things you want it to be. So, but this is from Dr. Marwa Osman, right? Which I brought her on the show, at least her articles frequently. But she writes the golden lines, the UAE and Sudan's blood gold, and China's quiet facilitation. So, you know, not all those BRICS countries seem to be the allies we think they are in particular cases. So, you know, it's just best to be aware of that as well. But they write, Marwa writes, gold has been a sign of wealth and safety for hundreds of years. That shine hides a much darker truth, a global market that can and does hide where metal comes from in places where there is violence, exploitation, and state collapse. This investigation follows one such chain, the flow of Sudanese gold into the UAE. The human and political cost of that trade inside Sudan, and the role of third parties such as China in a regional ecosystem that has made it possible for illegal and wartime gold to be turned into cash, legitimized, and moved into global markets. So, and keep in mind throughout this whole article, just, you know, if we want to head on over to our geography textbooks class, our geology textbooks, like, where there's gold, there is also what? Like, likely to
People
be
going to steal it.
other minerals. I meant, we were in our geology textbook, not our history textbook, Collin. You know, so just there's also going to be rare earth minerals, right, as well as gold. So we're talking lithium and all the fun goodies, which you're seeing plenty of that in Africa to take, is what it sounds like. No,
sure.
So, like, the UAE promotes itself. I mean, we gotta launder this blood money, pretty much, is what we're doing, right? So UAE promotes itself as a modern financial center. Its gold vaults and trading floors in Dubai and Abu Dhabi have become key points in a world market where hundreds of tons of gold move every year. The UAE does not, however, have a gold mining industry that is big enough for that market. Most of that metal that goes to its refineries and exchanges comes from other countries. Some of it is legally declared, but there are also unregulated flows that international investigators and analysts say include gold mined under armed control or taken from workers who are forced to work in conflict zones, especially Sudan. The outcome is a moral and geopolitical contradiction. A small Gulf state with few natural gold resources is one of the world's biggest arbiters of holders of gold reserves. Its vaults are filling up with metal whose upstream chain of custody is unclean. Sudan, on the other hand, is losing money that can and has been used to pay for fighters on both sides of its civil war. This is because the artisanal industrial gold sector grew rapidly after South Sudan became independent. The story of how modern markets can make violence worse includes the trafficking routes, the people who use them, and the outside buyers who make money off them. The UAE promotes itself as a modern financial center. We talked about that. There we go. The magnitude of the relationship is hard to overlook due to trade statistics gathered by global custom databases and trade analysts. The UAE was listed as the primary destination for a significant portion of Sudan's $1.3 billion in gold exports in 2023. $1.3 billion in 2023, which were the country's top export line item, according to estimates from independent trade brokers. significant amounts of Sudanese gold either passed through or arrived in the UAE between 2019 and 2023 through direct exports and neighboring transit states, according to trade data platforms and researchers at Chatham House. A significant portion of Sudan's gold production, sometimes estimated at almost half, is smuggled, resulting in a gray economy that favors private middlemen and armed actors. So, I mean, sounds like a melting pot of, good deed doers, does it not?
Yes.
The UAE's declared gold reserves and trade volumes have increased concurrently. Dubai continues to be one of the busiest gold hubs in the world. Assessments typically place it in the top 2 or 3 global centers for gold trading, along with Switzerland and London. The central bank of the UAE has reported a sharp increase in the value of the country's official gold holdings in 2024 and 25. However, the UAE only acts as a trader, refiner, and registrar in the market. It has no substantial domestic gold reserves. Understanding the origins of the metal is crucial because of this asymmetry, which contrasts small domestic production with excessive trading activity and growing reserves. So essentially, they're just raking all this in and keeping it, right? Letting it, accrue wealth,
Mm-hmm.
Like you're making the market smaller by holding on to it. So this is why I found this story, right? Like as it was emerging, was particularly this video. So this is in Dubai, right? And remember last week I said someone had, their wedding honeymoon in Dubai, right? Somebody recently, I'm pretty sure, definitely did that. I wouldn't go look that up. But this is the kind of gold we're talking about in Dubai. I mean, just walls and walls of it, so yeah, it's nothing to scoff at. And all of that is blood gold practically,
Right.
So according to independent investigations, a significant amount of Sudan's gold wealth completely eludes state oversight, supporting a covert economy that keeps the war going. According to an analyst by Global Witness, networks associated with Sudan's rapid support forces run smuggling routes that transport unregistered gold through Chad and Darfur on the way to Dubai, where it is refined and re-exported under the guise of lawful trade. Once in the UAE's refineries, these shipments frequently conceal their origins by combining legally mined metal with gold from conflict sources. Despite UN sanctions and international monitoring efforts, RSF-controlled companies have continued to maintain trading links with Emirati intermediaries, according to Reuters reporting from 2023. So the UAE's lax regulatory framework, which permits substantial amounts of unconfirmed gold to enter Dubai's markets, supports this illegal system. Researchers from Chatham House point out that UAE is a popular destination for conflict-linked gold from all over Africa because of its door-open import policy and lax customs procedures. Investigations by Al Jazeera in 2023 revealed how Sudanese middlemen and traders effectively turned war profits into legal capital by using front companies registered in the UAE to launder the proceeds from smuggled bullion. The outcome is a self-sustaining cycle. Dubai's refineries and vaults provide the international legitimacy that keeps the system afloat, while Sudan's battlefields produce gold that fuels the fighting. Again, at Chatham House, they reported the UAE Emirates has emerged as the hub of Africa's conflict gold economy, importing from at least 16 African nations, many of which are impacted by armed conflict or poor governance. In addition to Sudan, according to the study, because of UAE's door-open import policy and lax of scrutiny of origin documentation, the majority of Africa's artisanal and small-scale gold production is channeled through the UAE. Ahmed Solomon and Suleiman Baldo, the authors of the report, point out this system makes it possible for gold from conflict areas like Darfur to enter international markets indistinguishable from lawful trade, thereby laundering war profits through Dubai's exchange houses and refineries. So, like I said, literal gold laundering. So, at mass scale, practically. These conclusions are supported by an Al Jazeera investigative unit expose published in mid-2023, which shows that RSF-affiliated businessmen and middlemen have legalized profits from smuggled bullion. Right, so... Yeah, any thoughts so far, Care Bear?
I mean, you said it earlier, it's kind of proving how China is not as humanistic as people make it out to be. Like, they're complicit in a lot of this. So...
Yep. I mean, you got this. You got the child labor.
I think if anything,
involved.
they play both sides. Right. Is anything they both sides. So, China's no longer. Oh,
you're good.
China's no longer a socialist nation. So
yeah,
they're doing the same shit that. Like, again, they're a little more covert about it, and they do it in the guise of, like trying to elevate, African countries in particular. But as I said, it's not like African, people are seizing the means of production, depending on what it is. It's often run by the Chinese themselves. The Chinese are the ones who are the bosses. The Chinese are the ones who are running the show and taking their jobs, depending on what it is, especially in construction. And I know that because I had Ugandans tell me that.
So
that's what's happening.
Here's the bit Care Bear might be interested in. So, situation is made even more complex by China's involvement. Beijing and Sudan have a long history of strategic and commercial ties that go beyond infrastructure and oil agreements to include mining and building. Chinese businesses have long operated in Sudan's extractive industries, and Beijing's voracious appetite for commodities contributes to the structural demand for gold. Through trading hubs, gold is imported by buyers from around the world, including Chinese companies and state-affiliated buyers. There's evidence that some of the metal that reaches UAE markets is then sold to buyers in Asia, including China. So, I mean, they're definitely profiting off this as well. So, I mean, very clearly. Like between that and also the UAE's connection to Israel on top of that. So, I mean, it's just a who's who of, like, exploitation,
Right.
And China's also involved with sending arms, like we talked about in Papua New Guinea, like, and New Guinea, right? That's how that works.
Mm-hmm.
They're like a little double island, right? But yeah, I mean, any closing thoughts? I definitely suggest people read the full article down there in the doobly-doo. So, Dr. Marwa lays it out. But what you got? Anything else?
No, I mean...
Follow the money, Lebowski.
Again, basically.
Yep. And it's kind of alluded to what we talked about at the beginning of the show, too, where it's like, pay attention to these, like, this isn't new. Like, this has been happening for, like, centuries now. The resource management game,
Mm-hmm.
Like, just follow the resources and think outside the box with what's actually needed. What commodities are needed right now? Like, because between that, real estate, and water, it's going to be a fun time for everyone. So, yee. But talking about it, certainly gets us demonetized. So you can scan that code on your screen or go to ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. Links to donate are in the description below if you would like to have us cover more things like this. Otherwise, like and subscribe and share this with your friends. Leave a comment. Let me know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching. Yeah, we did it. Care Bear.
Yay.
Jay Quellen in the chat said, Reef, you're on fire. I can see the smoke. Jay Quellen. That is how I feel like Jacqueline is pronounced, That's how it's written to me in my brain. I'm like, Jay Quellen. Anyway. I think Indy sent me this for next week. This is what's happening. Some stuff is being moved around, right? Indy's now doing we changed How Do We Miss That to Indie News Now. And like moving it around, Indy's got to actually get some sleep occasionally. So we're trying to figure that out. But otherwise, same bat time, same bat channel, and pretty much everything else. So yeah. You're welcome. He did a graphic. Look at the graphic. Look at the times. Figure it out. All of them are Eastern. It makes sense. It's very easy. It's easy. You could also follow us on Twitter at GetIndieNews or follow us on Substack. Links to find us are in the description. Is there anything you want to tell people before we get out of here?
Just take care of each other and check in on your neighbors and everything and make sure they're all right. Especially now.
Yeah. Words of affirmation all around. Julio. Well, remember, kids, labels are bad. Stay independent. Good night, fam.
Have a good week.
There's a difference between peace and liberation, is there not? You can have injustice and have peace. Isn't that correct? And peace and be enslaved.
Yes.
So peace isn't the answer.
No.
Liberation is the answer.